Well, we've just heard this week, have we not, that Dame Sarah Mullally, who's standing in for until the Church of England can get a proper archbishop, is going to give £100 million or so reparations for slavery. And this is so reflective of the standard of education that senior church people seem to have these days. They haven't had the benefit of a traditional, formal education. Otherwise, she wouldn't come out with such nonsense. Now, let's just get a few things together, shall we? Slavery goes back to the beginning of time. To the beginning of time. And it doesn't matter if it's the Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, so it goes on. That doesn't excuse it. It doesn't excuse slavery, which is a pretty appalling thing. But it just shows you that it's a creature of its time. It was a creature of its time. And Great Britain led the charge. We led the charge against slavery, against international slavery. And we spent a great deal of money on it. And it started a long time ago. By common law, slavery in Great Britain was criminalised in the late 1700s. And then we stepped forward with William Wilberforce, which every child with a formal education in the 1950s had heard of. There was not a single child who didn't know William Wilberforce and his charge against international slavery. And my wife went to the school where William Wilberforce went to in East Yorkshire, Pocklington School. And she went there. There's a statue of William Wilberforce outside the school gate. So now, how could she not know this? How can she not know about our charge? And it was got rid of slavery in the empire totally in 1834, and that was the final commitment to ending slavery. And then the Royal Navy, we marshalled the Royal Navy to stop slavery internationally. And the figures aren't quite clear, but we know that we lost around about 1,500 or 1,600 Royal Naval personnel in that fight, which lasted over 50 years against international slavery on the west coast of Africa, the west coast station of Africa. So we have a very noble history of fighting slavery. And it's something that we should be very proud of. But of course, with state education, it's been edited out. So kids today, and indeed their parents in their 40s, maybe, or early 50s, don't know anything about this at all either. And we compensated slave owners. It cost a great deal of money to do that, so that we didn't have to do it by any form of warfare or civil warfare. So it was done that way. And it was a very great sum in its day. So we are the good guys in this. Yes, we were the bad guys in the early 1700s. I know that. But everybody was a bad guy, and so we were sort of going with the flow. I'm not excusing that, but we've done our bit. And these places in Africa now, in the Indian subcontinent, get between them around about £1 billion a month in overseas aid, most of which, of course, is unaudited, and I suspect most of it is actually filched by those in charge of these African states and African and Indian subcontinental regions. That's neither here nor there. But we are doing our bit still. We are doing our bit still to try and give people a leg up. Now, this £100 million, let's look at the practicalities of it, Dame Sarah. And if you see this, but please do get in touch with me and tell me how you intend to do it, because I don't think you've got a clue. I think it was a soundbite, and now you're stuck with it, and you're beginning to look rather a fool. But that's neither here nor there. What are you going to do? You've got 100 million. So who's going to manage it? How are you going to ring fence it? And most importantly, to whom are you going to give it? Because we got rid of slavery in 1834. There isn't anybody alive who either kept slaves or was a slave. All right? So for generations and generations, it's all over, it's gone, it's departed. It's part of our history. So what are you actually going to do with it? Now, if you are an emotional woman, and I suspect you are, because this was I think it was an emotional outburst and you're stuck with it. I don't know quite how you're going to manage it, but would it be more sensible if you have £100 million to spare? And don't forget, it's not your money. You are the steward, and the synod are the steward You're in stewardship of that money. It's not really yours to squander. But if you wanted to do something good with it from a humanitarian point of view, wouldn't it be good to actually put it in the kitty to help people, Christians who are being harassed globally and discriminated against globally, particularly in places like Nigeria and parts of the Indian subcontinent? Wouldn't that be a better use of the money if you wish to spend it in a humanitarian way? Or what are you going to do? Are you going to give it a check to leaders of what are mainly some very suspicious administrations in Africa and indeed in part the West Indies, so on and so forth? Are you just going to give people a check because they're black? Is this your policy? Is to give money based on the colour of somebody's skin? Is that your game? And how are you going to stop people pilfering it? Because then it's got to be managed. It's £100 million. It can't all be spent at once. It's got to be administered. You're going to need fund managers with a special briefing for that kind of money, so on and so forth. And everybody will get their hand in the till. Everybody will put their hand in the till. You could argue that a good place to put that money would be in the upkeep and the improvement of churches which are falling to pieces. That is church property, and that is well within your remit and your moral remit, you and the synod. This soundbite squandering of money is unworthy, Dame Sarah. Unworthy. And you're making a case against yourself because it was a very dodgy appointment, as you know, from a doctrinal part of the Anglican Church. Your appointment was very, very suspicious. And of course, the leader of the church doesn't want to be the leader of the church. The King of England is not interested, doesn't care, probably a Muslim. So we've got all these problems, haven't we? And you're not making it better for yourself because you are beginning to look like a rather silly, emotional woman, and that's not good for you and it's not good for the church. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So, surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.